From very humble beginnings in 1992 to taking another crack at directing a movie in 1998 that didn't do all that well, to cementing himself as a director to watch by helping us see dead people a year later in 1999, and then helping us witness Mel Gibson, Joaquin Phoenix, and young Abigail Breslin battling aliens that were allergic to water, and then they landed on a planet that was 70% water. I've never quite understood that. But then, speaking of water, we got Lady in the Water. And then we got The Happening. Oh, hi, rerun. We saw The Last Airbender. We certainly did. We didn't see the good Last Airbender. And then he kept just going and going. We got the last two entries in the Unbreakable trilogy with Glass and Split. And then we got to see what happens when you get old on a beach. And then we knocked at a cabin. The one thing you can guarantee when it comes to M. Night Shyamalan movies, a.k.a. M. Night Shyamalan with Ding Dong, what a twist! Good old robot chicken. I'm John Rentham with By the Numbers, Episode 9 on all the M. Night Shyamalan with Ding Dong directed movies. So the first two entries will not take all that long, but let me know your thought on the M. Night Shyamalan with Ding Dong movies in the comments, please. Your thoughts, I don't care. You can have multiple thoughts. It's a free country. Why not? So, he started off very, very humbly with Praying with Anger. This seemed more like a passion project. There isn't a lot of info on this as far as box office numbers. The budget was $750K, $1.6 million in today's money, and M. Night starred in it. Then again, given the concept of it, I do feel it was a passion project. The audience reception is 4.5 out of 10 on IMDb. Haven't seen it, don't know where I can find a copy, wouldn't mind seeing it at some point. Wide Awake, not the Katy Perry song, but a movie that stars Rosie O'Donnell. That would explain why I probably haven't seen it, because I really hate Rosie O'Donnell. The budget was $6 million, so they said, here, direct this. It's seemingly a comedy, drama, coming-of-age thing, based on what I read. Well, the opening wasn't all that great, just a shade under $96K. And that's $180K in today's money. Domestic gross, $282K. Yeah. And just a shade under $530K in today's money. Didn't do all that well. Damn you, Katy Perry, for not coming out with your song soon enough. So, audience reception, 66% on Rotten Tomatoes, 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, 45% critical rating, and a 50 out of 100, I assume, on Metacritic. Could be a 50 out of 200 for all I fucking know. But didn't look like M. Night Shyamalan with Ding Dong was going to do all that well. I know what his name is, but after some of the butchering that he provided and slopped out in theaters, yeah, there are a few reasons why M. Night Shyamalan should have been one of the premier directors, and is somebody that everybody hopes returns to form because of films like the next entry, The Sixth Sense, that came out in 1999. And yeah, in hindsight, the twist was very obvious, and if nobody had ever seen a Twilight Zone episode before, or had never heard of the Twilight Zone episode, or had never even heard the song by Golden Earring Twilight Zone, even if you just saw that name, you would have known what the twist was. That being said, big goddamn deal. The internet was in its infancy, and it was a $40 million budget slapped on this thing. Bruce Willis was in it. Toni Collette, I still would. Just saying, like that matter. Toni Collette's terrific. She's fucking terrific. I mean, here, The Hours, Hereditary, recently in Mafia Mama. That was a movie I actually enjoyed, shockingly. Probably had something, and by something I mean everything to do with the fact that Monica Bellucci was on my screen for a while. Boy, howdy. But yes, I See Dead People. I don't know why we left them in a frozen lake. Ah ha 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 ha. Haley Joel Osment became a household name, and then did Pay It Forward. And that pretty much put a halt to that right there. Pay It Forward was shit. Also had Kevin Spacey. Could only imagine the horror stories that Haley Joel Osment has to tell about Kevin fucking Spacey. $40 million budget though, $73.3 million in today's money. The opening was pretty goddamn big. There was a viral marketing campaign, even though it wasn't viral back then. $26.8 million opening, and just a shade over $49 million in today's money. And the domestic gross was $293 million. Word of mouth, they just, they noshed on it. I don't think that's how you nosh. I don't even know what nosh is. $537.6 million in today's money, and a worldwide gross of $600 $72.8 million, which would be $1.23 billion in today's money. That's a big goddamn deal. So that pretty much set him up to have carte blanche, as it were, and he would get bigger, beefier budgets. But before that, the audience rating, 90%, 8.2 out of 10 on IMDb, 86% critical reception, and a 64 out of 100 on Metacritic. So, yeah, sure, I mean, you rewatch it, it's not going to have the same impact. Still, Bruce Willis was good, and there were some good performances in this, even with the obvious twist. Speaking of Bruce Willis, he's in M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's next offering, Unbreakable, that I liked. I liked Unbreakable quite a bit. I haven't watched it in years and probably need to watch it at some point again. Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson were great. Yes, and M. Night also decides to make cameos in every single one of his movies, like Hitchcock. Thankfully, he's not like Hitchcock as far as dealing with his leading ladies. If you get it, you get it. And if you don't, Google Alfred Hitchcock and controversy. You'll see what the fuck I mean. Tippi Hedren. The Birds. Granted, Tippi Hedren, back then, boy fucking howdy, but you don't do that to women. So anyway, the budget for Unbreakable. They came out a year later, $75 million. Makes sense. That'd be 133.1 in today's money. Opening was 30.3. So okay, a little bit bigger than The Sixth Sense. 53.7 million in today's money. The domestic gross is 95 million. Ouch. Ouch. Just a shade under $200 million less than The Sixth Sense. That's not good at all. And that would be $168.6 million in today's money. Worldwide gross of $248.1 million. Ouch. And that'd be $440.4 million. Now, don't get me wrong. That is a really, really good amount of money. And it did make its budget back. But it needed to rely on the worldwide gross to do that. And that's unfair because Unbreakable actually was bleak, depressing, but also good. And would kick off the eventual Unbreakable trilogy that didn't get going for about 16 years after this. And yeah, that ended up happening. But yeah, Unbreakable was still something well received. I mean, audiences gave it a 77% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 70% critical reception, 62 out of 100 on Metacritic. So well received. Not as well received as The Sixth Sense. I would argue Unbreakable holds up better, but that's me. Again, I haven't rewatched either of those in a while. But one I did rewatch was one that came out 2 years later, Signs, where Mel Gibson pretended that aliens were Jews, and that's why he attacked them. I'm never going to forget that, even though Mel Gibson is a hilarious and very skilled actor. But he was on record as hating Jews. And not just them. A lot of people. Being abusive towards women. And there's no excuse as far as mental or diminished capacity or any of that stuff. No, you're just kind of born that way, folks. You have that, you may have that hate ingrained in you, who knows, maybe with how you were raised, but there are ways to get out of that. There are ways to get to where you aren't racist and homophobic and a piece of shit like that. Let's just get to the Sign stuff. $72 million budget, which would be $122.3 million in today's money. The opening was $60.1 million. Big money. And this one got a lot of hype behind. I remember the advertising for this. That'd be $102.1 million in today's money. Domestic gross, $227.9 million. So, not quite as big as The Sixth Sense, but still way bigger than Unbreakable. That would be $387.2 million in today's money. Worldwide gross, $408.2 million, which was not as big as The Sixth Sense, but way bigger than Unbreakable. That'd be $693.6 million in today's dollars. Audience reception was 67%, 6.8 out of 10 on IMDb, 75% critical reception, 59 on Metacritic. I remember rewatching Signs recently and thinking, this movie's kind of bad. I mean, it had some cool jump scare moments, like Joaquin Phoenix watching the television saying, "Vamonos, vamonos," so we could see the alien go by. And featured a young Abigail Breslin, who proved, even here, when I think she was Yeah, about 6 or 7, no, about 6 years old, that she was somebody to watch. And then Little Miss Sunshine and Scream Queens and other stuff that she's done since. Bright young actress. There we go. The fact that she's going to be 30 in 2026 doesn't sit right with me because, like her, Anna Sophia Robb, and Dakota Fanning, I always see them as child actresses just because when you grow up watching people, when you see certain movies and you have it ingrained in your memory, it's like seeing Macaulay Culkin as, an adult, and something just doesn't compute with me. And even though I think I was roughly the same age as Macaulay Culkin, just something, I don't know. Nevertheless, Signs, yeah, it wobbled a bit there. But his next one was going to be even better. The Village. 2004. I haven't retro-reviewed that recently. I don't think I've ever retro-reviewed that, actually. And I don't know if I want to, because it had Adrian Brody in it, and I love Adrian Brody. And other people, but good God, this movie. $60 million budget. For what? For what? That would be $97 million in today's money, and an opening of $50.7 million, because M. Night was very, very over. That'd be $81 million for today's dollars. We got a domestic gross of $114.2 million. Because word of mouth got out that this movie is shit. $184.8 million. And a worldwide gross of $256.7 million. And that'd be $415.4 million with today's dollars factored in. And yeah, I'm going to say right now The Village just featured one of the dumbest twists. It was a twist that everybody, I think, could see coming a mile away. And also was not good. It was not good. It was not... The problem is it was also marketed as a horror movie, and it wasn't horrifying. It was more of a period drama. But even if it was a period drama, they only last a few days each month. Har, har. And there's no reason why the movie would have done all that well and been received all that well. Even with the benefit of hindsight, this movie just isn't good. 57% audience reception, 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. Critical reception of 43%, and a 44 out of 100 on Metacritic. So yeah, The Village, dog shit, complete dog shit, despite the cast. William Hurt was in this. And various are Sigourney Weaver. They waste... Look at the cast. Look at the cast of that movie and then wonder how this movie could have been so shit. And of course, M. Night makes an appearance there. I believe at a ranger station. Ranger danger, as it were. But don't worry, his next movie got better. Lady in the Water. Okay, so maybe better would be a relative term. Bryce Dallas Howard, who I think is gorgeous, by the way. I think she just does an incredible beauty factor about her. That's just me, though. This came out in 2006. And the budget was $70 million. I would really like to know where. I would really like to know where the budget for this movie went. Did it go to the drugs that everybody needed to take to make this? $106.1 million in today's dollars. We're getting to where I'm not going, after the next couple entries, I'm not going to be doing the inflation calculator, because unless it's over, 10 years ago, like if it's 13, 15 years ago, that's about the cutoff. There's no reason to do that. But the opening was $18 million because, yeah, this one wasn't marketed well and The Village wasn't well received, and it had a huge drop. That'd be $27.2 million in today's dollars. And a domestic gross of $42.8 million. Ouch. $64.8 million in today's dollars. A worldwide gross of $72.7 million and $110.2 million. But don't worry. Everybody can have a movie that doesn't do all that well. Lady in the Water, honestly, was a bit of a weird movie. It wasn't good. It was better than The Village, but that's not saying much. Unfortunately, the audience and critical reception was not nearly as positive. And they weren't that positive towards The Village. 49% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb. 25% critical reception. And a 36 out of 100 on Metacritic. They ain't like Paul Giamatti leading that thing, I guess. I don't know. Paul Giamatti's a fine actor. And then we get to The Happening. Hot dogs. Just hot dogs. And John Leguizamo was sweating and snotting all over everybody and doing math stuff and talking about pennies in a van or a Jeep. Was it a Jeep? It was a Jeep. I rewatched it recently and tried to put it out of my mind. You had Zooey Deschanel. He was gorgeous, by the way. You have Mark Wahlberg, who wasn't committing hate crimes at this point, believe it or not. Despite being a great actor, just Google Mark Wahlberg and controversy. You'll see what I mean. So, yeah, this movie just was about the planet saying, you're all fucking idiots, you're killing me, I'm going to kill you. That's pretty much what it is. And unfortunately, it hinted at a sequel. Fortunately, we have not gotten that sequel. We should never get that sequel. This movie was dog shit because it beat you over the goddamn head with the environmentalist thing. That wasn't all that interesting to begin with. But yeah. Yeah, this was painful. I rewatched this and was actually struggling to understand how I sat in the theater and watched this and didn't walk out. And I remember I had a girlfriend at the time. I don't remember what she thought of it. I don't think she liked it very much. I haven't talked to her in a while, but if she happens to be watching this, I hope she's doing well. Don't hold hatred in your heart towards your exes, kids, or young adults, or old adults. If you happen to be old like me, I'm sorry, then, yeah, don't hold hatred in your hearts towards exes. Just wish that you do better than they do. No, I'm kidding. Speaking of exes, it seemed like there was an implication that we were going to get, like, a split up here between Zoe Deschanel, Zoot Zoe, Deschanel, throw back a bottle of beer, and then they have the kids, and one gets shotgun blasted from here to here? Okay, that Cherry Poppin' Daddies probably didn't exactly, appreciate that one, but let's get to the budget. $48 million, $68.1 million in today's money, $30.5 million opening, so about on par with a couple of the other entries, before The Village. And then we got to a $64.5 million gross, and which would be $91.5 million in today's dollars. And the opening, by the way, would be 43.3, yes, in today's money. Worldwide gross of $163.4 million, $232 million in today's dollars. 24% critical reception, or 18% critical reception, 34 out of 100 on Metacritic, 24% and a 5 out of 10 on IMDb. And to say The Happening was dog shit would be an understatement. However, nothing would pale in comparison to when people really started to hate M. Night Shyamalan and Ding Dong with The Last Airbender. When you can't even pronounce the main character's name correctly, and you claim that your kids loved it and you wanted to do something for them, and you didn't even consult your kids and say, hey, how do you pronounce it? Is it Ong or Ang? Pretty simple right there. Pretty cut and dry right there. Figure out which one it is and go with that. So yeah, it's got a $150 million budget. And with nothing but CGI and bullshit. $210.2 million in today's dollars. $40.3 million. So people were interested. $56.5 million. And then we got a domestic gross of $131.7 million. So it just cracked its budget. 184.6. So $319.7 million worldwide. $448.1 million in today's dollars. And there you are. So, okay. It was enough of a hit that I guess worldwide, but it was so reviled. The audience reception was 30% with a 4.0 on IMDb. And the critical reception, 5%. And that's 5 points too high because this movie is awful. I'm not even a fan of the animated series, but my God, this movie was offensive to anybody that liked any of the episodes, anybody that even briefly followed it. 20 out of 10 on 20 out of 100 on Metacritic. It wishes it was a 20 out of 10. But yes, The Last Airbender. You want to talk about dog shit? Don't ask me to retro review that. You're going to ask me to retro review that at some point, aren't you folks? Assuming you're still watching. So we go to, The Last Airbender, dog shit. After Earth 2013. Rumor has it, as Adele once said, that Will Smith actually oversaw the directing and stuff like that, which explains why Jaden Smith couldn't act for shit, because Jaden Smith is a terrible actor, or at least became a terrible actor. He wasn't bad as a kid, but then by this point, Jesus, and I believe M. Night Shyamalan actually has said that while he oversaw this, he took the heat for it. So let's just blame M. Night Shyamalan and Will Smith for this. It was a terrible movie. This is an abomination. I may retro-review this at some point and just hate myself. $130 million budget. So they said, yeah, $20 million off because of what happened with The Last Airbender, but it'll do well with a $27.5 million opening. Domestic was $60.5 million, $243.6 million worldwide. So at least it made its budget back, plus marketing. But After Earth was very reviled, 60 or 36% rather on the audience score. 4.8 out of 100, or 4.8 out of 100. That would really be low. 4.8 out of 10 should be 4.8 out of 100. That's on IMDb, and a 12% critical rating and a 33 on Metacritic. It was higher than the goddamn Last Airbender, which is saying something because both were absolutely shit. So let's just finish off the rest of these. See, I originally thought, looking at this and the fact I was doing so many of these movies, that this was going to be a two-parter. But no, I can just make it an extra long video. The Visit that I recently retro-reviewed, and yeah, I didn't care for this one, mainly because it was very obvious what the twist was. I mean, I'm just saying, if you can't figure out that a mother is sending her kids to go see her grandparents, without actually making sure that those are the grandparents that she hadn't had contact with for a while. Yeah, sure, it's a great idea, kids. Go ahead and do that. And then it turns out that they aren't actually that. I'm sorry for spoiling, but the movie was shit. $5 million budget, mostly found footage, a $25.4 million opening. So, okay, there was still interest with M. Night Shyamalan. He was returning to horror, as opposed to horrifying entries like The Happening, Last Airbender, and After Earth. And I mean, good God, if you actually factor in The Village, Lady in the Water, The Happening, Last Airbender, and After Earth, that's a string of just dog shit. So the fact that people were so interested in his projects is saying something. A domestic gross is $65.2 million, and a worldwide gross of just under $100 million. So a hit. For $5 million to get that, a hit. And sure, The Visit was not the most egregious entry in his archive of films, but it still wasn't good. 51% audience rating, 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb, 68% for the critics, and a 55 on Metacritic. And then we go to Split with Anya Taylor-Joy. Anya Taylor-Joy. Loved her in The Witch. She was great in The Witch. She was great here. Anya Taylor-Joy. Watch The Northman. Watch Last Night in Soho, by the way. Watch this. I don't know why I had to tip it all the way up there, considering the title's right here. Yeah, Last Night in Soho is fucking terrific. You get to see her being just a goddamn goddess that she is. And Thomasin McKenzie was also in this, and she was great in Jojo Rabbit, and she was great in this. Last Night in Soho, my favorite movie of 2021. Assuming the people were actually going to hate being spoiled about, looking back at my old list. Anyway, Split, $9 million budget, and James McAvoy going absolutely insane. Or I think it's McAvoy. $40 million opening. There was life. There was life to M. Night Shyamalan and Ding Dong and his archive of films. People wanted to see him return and do well. $138.2 million opening domestic gross, so that's good. Worldwide gross of $278.4 million. So good, he's back. He's coming back. 79% audience reception, 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 78% critical reception, 62 out of 100 on Metacritic. And then we get to Glass, where we just tie the Unbreakable stuff together. Again, Anya Taylor-Joy, and then also James McAvoy, and various other things. The budget was $20 million, which makes sense. Hey, Split did well, let's give you more for Glass. And the opening was right around the same as Split, 40.3. That's good. Domestic gross, however, was a little bit down from Split, 111. And the worldwide gross, $247 million altogether. And unfortunately, Glass was not as well received. 67% audience reception, 6.6 out of 10 on IMDb. 37% critical reception, and a 45 out of 100 on Metacritic. Yeah, Glass wasn't very good. Though it was way, 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 way better than Old. Now, to be fair to Old, before I talk about their numbers, this is talk about its numbers, and even the following entry, That's the last in the amount for now. He was doing his best to like get people back into theaters and trying to do something different. And this was just a number of months after theaters had opened back up due to the pandemic. Even though some theater chains had opened and bombed sometime in 2020 with restrictions and stuff like that, by this time in 2021, and even actually by the summer of 2021, theaters were opening back up. People were being smart and taking care of themselves. Keep your anti-vax bullshit off of this video, by the way, or I'll ban you, because I don't need to deal with a bunch of you fucks. But Old was a return to form for M. Night Shyamalan. It was a return to his bullshit. I hated this movie. Check out my review where basically not only did I do a terrible rendition of Rome by B-52s, but I pretty much slandered this entire thing. The budget was $18 million, and it opened with 16.8. Now, again, restrictions and certain stuff and everything, and also people were still tentative about going back to the movies. It domestically made $48.2 million. So it was a hit, and it made $90.1 million worldwide. So no, it wasn't his biggest hit, but given the restrictions, and given all the stuff, and given the fact the movie was absolute dog shit, it did better than it probably should have. 53% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 5.8 out of 100, or out of 100. Actually, that would be about right for my rating. Out of 10 on IMDb, and a 50% critical reception, 55 on Metacritic. And then we get Knock at the Cabin. Batista pretty much was the only highlight of this. It's not actually that any of the other cast members were bad, but Batista was the lone highlight of this. I hated Knock at the Cabin. Hated it. Encourage you guys to watch it because of Batista. But the budget was $20 million. And it was also very obvious where the movie was going from the beginning. And also you didn't care. And also it was complete bullshit. But nevertheless, $14.1 million opening. And I remember watching it on opening day. And actually, I think this is when... Because I switched my schedule to get Thursdays and Fridays off. So now I can go to movies early and watch that stuff. Like, as of this, I'm going to be adding 3 more movies to the timeline because why the fuck not? The Nun 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and A Haunting in Venice, a special screening. But Knock at the Cabin did make $35.3 million domestically. So it was enough of a hit, but it did have a lot of marketing, so it might have just broke even. But it did end up making $54.7 million worldwide. And the problem is, it just wasn't very good. It wasn't scary at all. It presented some neat little ideas, and Batista was a tour de force. He's a terrific actor, by the way. Would have never thought the man of his Batista bombing people in WWE ring for years would actually make such a great actor, but he has proven that he is quite good. Also, Rupert Grint, yes, Ron Weasley himself was in this. So, 63% audience rating, 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 67% critical reception, 63 on Metacritic. Is M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong going to do some more stuff? Probably, maybe. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. I have no desire really to watch anything else that he does because his movies kind of went to absolute shit. I would argue even Split wasn't great, but it was a return to form. But he pretty much peaked with Signs. He's had flashes since then. But yeah, that's that long video on all the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movies. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.